need a new key for me. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, we're ready to go live.
Okay, let's do it.
With the buffering and the YouTube. So, I am Pam Barnhill, and I am so happy that you are here joining Misty Winkler and I today for this episode of the Homeschool Teachers Lounge. We think it's like, what, 18 or 19 or something like that?
Yeah,
19?
yeah.
18? 18.
18.
Yeah. Yeah. 18. So we've been doing this a while. Not always the two of us. Also, the 10 minutes to a better home. My good friend, Misty Winkler.
Yes. .com about homemaking and homeschooling and doing life cheerfully. And I also always have too many Chrome tabs open, which I'm trying to close out now so that to see if that helps with this whole lag problem. So,
all right, I'm closing my. How our homeschools went this particular week, and mine was actually pretty good. I will say it was an uneventful week, which I think a lot of times is a really good thing when you just don't have a whole lot going on. I don't know, like yay for uneventful weeks.
yeah. Sometimes you have to actually be home to homeschool, turns out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So, yeah, we were getting back in the swing of things after being off or being sick and everything. And morning time looking good and going great, and also doing just our science, picking that back up again, the kids writing a little bit. I still feel woefully behind, and my kids were bothering me today. They're like, why do we have to do school on President's Day? And we ended up not doing as much as I had planned because in their infinite wisdom, our church, well, our whole archdiocese schedules a teen uh, conference. It was just a fabulous teen conference that my teens got to go to. So 2 of my kids went to this conference. Well, the archdiocese turns out it's really smart for scheduling it the weekend of President's Day, because then all the kids are off school on Monday
Oh,
because they come
sure.
home
Exhausted.
absolutely exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. I mean, they were so dragging this morning. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's not the best day to just be really gung ho and make everybody put their nose to the grindstone. So I did. I really let them slack off some today. Now, my daughter had some stuff she had to do. Um, but she had to take a test for Civil Air Patrol, and she had to take do a math tutoring session. But for the rest of them, I just kind of left them alone a little bit. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, last week for us was a break week. So
Okay.
since it was break week, we did do school today.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have our own breaks.
Yeah.
President's Day is not included.
Well, and that's what I usually tell mine, and actually what I said to one of them today when he was kind of like, Mom, do we have to do it? I'm like, we've just been off for being sick. I mean, we have a certain required number of days to get in. So we either have to do school or we have to do school in the summer when you don't want to do school. So.
Right. Which is worse?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Much so. So, yep.
So we did last week, though, on Friday, go to an open house for a co-op in the new town that we moved to just explore the new homeschooling options and see what's going to be best for next year. So that was kind of exciting, and there's some decisions. It was a cool co-op, but then it's like you always have to decide. It's like the time, someone else picking the books and the schedule. Like that's hard.
In all the years I have known you, you have never done a co-op. Now, you did elementary lessons and middle school lessons, which we should tell everybody that's what Misty does with another family, and Misty's in charge.
Exactly, exactly. This. Yes. But I've never like signed up for someone else's plan before.
Right, right, right. And that would be a
Trying.
Misty.
There
The
we go.
lag keeps coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yep, I think I missed what you last said.
I was just saying it would be really hard at this age to have somebody else be in charge of part of your curriculum.
Yeah, yeah. But the other thing about this age, next year I'll have a ninth and those teenagers, though, it's just really important, I think, for them to have friends to talk to. Like, if you're discussing, or sometimes someone else to be accountable to for, a 12-year-old boy. That the big thing is this co-op will do the logic program that I did with my older boys, but the teacher on Fridays checks the workbook and like knows the answer. Whereas like sometimes, about half the time, maybe I checked the workbook for my older two boys and I really didn't know what was going on halfway through the book. So I was like, So there were a few things. It's like, that's a program that I would want to do, but there's a bit more like someone else sharing that load of checking the work and helping them understand and having other kids do it. And I think a little competition might help my 12-year-old son. So we'll see. We have to think and talk about it some more, and it's exploring the options for next year already.
Well, I think that's always the thing, is there's never a perfect option. It's always a matter of weighing the pros and cons of each and everything.
Yes,
because
for sure.
There was always so much we loved about our co-op. But then there were always cons to it as well. As much as we loved our co-op and loved the people there were always things. It was like, man, we can't like go off on rabbit trails and do what we want to do. We have to stick with what we're doing. So the kids will be prepared.
Yep. So today's topic, we're going to talk about preschool, which I think is sometimes it's preschool moms most interested in those co-ops. And one of the things that I like to encourage moms with preschoolers is to do a play group and not a co-op.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Yes. Do the play group. Don't do the co-op, for sure. Yep, for sure. Well, it's funny because I have actually been writing. I spent all last week writing a preschool talk for the conventions this year. And so, it was like going into it, it was like, well, this is going to be easy.
Right, right.
It's going to be so easy. Just tell them to play all the time. And then you realize you have to pull up a whole hour to tell people to play. All the time. So I really had to sit down and think about I learned so much as I was homeschooling my own kids through preschool, and I play is so good for kids. So think even if I have preschool, still feel the need to fill my days with something, And so what are the kind of the things that I could fill my days with? What are some of the things that I could do with my preschooler? Because it's not so much about figuring out exactly what they need for me anymore. It's about, how can I eliminate the decision fatigue for me as the mom? Like, I know I want to do some fun things with my preschooler, but how could I eliminate the decision fatigue for me as the mom? And it was funny because I went through and I found a bunch of pictures from when the kids were little to use in my presentation, to use in my talk. And I think there were maybe I ended up pulling like 30 pictures, 30 really cute pictures of my kids when they were preschoolers, doing all these fun preschool activities we did. And I think there were like 3 with Thomas in them. So
Yes.
Thomas is my youngest. The other 2 are really close. And then poor little Thomas never got preschool.
And is doing fine, right?
Yes, and actually probably learned to read easier than the other 2, like, it came faster. He's a whiz at math. Like, in no way can you look at this kid and say his skills, now you can look at this kid and say, "Well, he's spoiled rotten because he's the baby," or something like that, but, and sorry, Thomas, I'm telling on you. But, I mean, like, he does not suffer academically
Yeah.
for not having done preschool. But I was looking back at all the things we did, and we did some great, fun, wonderful stuff. And I don't think I would go back and change that. I would worry about it less, you know. I would stress about it less, for sure. But and there are a few things I would do a little bit differently. But as far as like, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on me and on them at that age.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of things I wouldn't change.
That's fun. Yeah. I never like intentionally sat down and taught any of my kids colors or shapes. And you know what? They still learned them because it just comes up. They learn those things the same way they learn every other word.
We didn't do that kind of stuff. Now, I did have some little like busy box activities where it was like take all the green paper clips and put them on the green card, or take
Yeah.
all the red paper clips and put them on the red card. But we never like pulled out the flashcards and quizzed anybody on what's red and what's green. We just talked about it like when we saw it in the real world. And in my research for my talk, that was what I discovered was that contextual learning, that learning in context. It's so, even with things like math. So you have this conversation like, how many people are we having at dinner? Oh, so how many forks do we need? Oh, you know what? I forgot grandma and grandpa are coming, so how many more forks do we need? So now how many forks do we have all together? That kind of stuff as opposed to a worksheet is way more beneficial to them because they can see the purpose of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think there is a little bit of a difference in what we need to do as moms for those oldest kids who are preschoolers versus the younger kids that are preschoolers, because with those youngest, there is a lot more generally going on in the household.
Yeah.
If you're homeschooling older kids, the youngest is picking up a lot from osmosis and just being around and kind of being included. There are more people talking to them and playing with them, and so they're learning in a richer environment. And so, it can be a little tricky. I know with moms who've had a few preschoolers and they're all grown up now to tell moms who are just starting out, like, oh, you don't need to do anything at all. I did stuff with my oldest, but it was overkill. And, you don't need to do overkill and you don't need to stress about it. But sometimes we do need to just be a bit more intentional with those oldest preschoolers to meet them where they're at because everyone else is younger than them. So just to make sure to be talking as you're doing everything, and reading aloud the books, and maybe doing some of those activities to just make sure it's a rich environment for them to be in.
Yeah, and that was another thing that came up in my research is that language, it's so much about speech. And so when we think about it's speech and vocabulary. Like vocabulary is one of the biggest indicators of how well a child is going to do further down the road with reading and all kinds of stuff. It's vocabulary, and you get to that by reading aloud to them, and you get to that by talking to them. And so, those younger preschoolers are hearing so many more conversations going on, even if they're not directly directed at them.
Yeah.
But you're far better off spending your time talking, storytelling, and letting them tell you stories. And then, just lots and lots of vocabulary words within context,
Right.
not
Not
spending more
flashcards.
vocabulary words, not flashcards. That's that early, those are the early indicators of like reading success further on down the road. And so, yeah, I think we do have to do that a little bit. Not right now. No, no, not right now. Yeah, I'm sure. It's like it's garbage time on Monday afternoon. It's like, really, don't come in and get the garbage now. But anyway, so that's the bigger indicator. So you have to be purposeful with it with your oldest child because they're not hearing as many conversations, and then probably less purposeful with your younger child because there are so many conversations going on. Yeah, so much so. Another really important point that came up in my research was making sure that there's this gap for this age group between what they want to be able to do and what they are capable of doing. And there's all this frustration that develops in the middle of this gap. And so what we have to do as parents is make sure that we're really aware of what their needs are, and we're pushing them just a teeny bit past that, but we're not putting tasks before them that are well beyond their capabilities. That's going to lead to that frustration. So that was another thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that was so interesting. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun to do all the research and to think about it. And it's going to be a fun talk because, I get to show pictures of my kids. So, well, hey, listen, Misty, we have a couple of preschool resources out there for moms who are looking for something. And I can't point them to you right now because I don't have the landing pages made. I will come back and I will put them on this video. We do have a kind of a preschool skills checklist. Like if you're like, okay, well, what kind of things should I be aware of and be thinking about as a mom as far as like, that vocabulary I was talking about, or reading stories, or learning to count things, or doing one-to-one correspondence in math, or different things like that. We have a checklist that you can download that has a few different activities in there that'll help you kind of like, oh, yeah, this is how we can check some of these things off the list. And there's even a set of finger puppets in there that my 16-year-old drew for us.
Fun.
Yeah, for Mary Had a Little Lamb. So I'll link to that down below on this video so you can find that. And actually, why don't we just go ahead and put it at pambarnhill.com/preschool. So it'll be there. So as soon as I get it up, that's where it'll be, and you can find it there. And then you can also check in our shop for our brand new Little Explorers early education program that's coming out this week. And that's going to help with that decision fatigue. So language rich, play based, learning in context. What do? I want to make sure I do the right things. This will give you some ideas. So you can check that out as well.
That fit the context of home and not trying to turn your home into like a institutional preschool.
Not at all. Not at all. Okay, so we do have a really good question here. Bibby says, do you consider preschool up to 6 years? So what do you say about that, Misty? What do you do? Because I know what I do.
I don't know, think about grades that much. So I guess just conventionally, I think preschool is until 5-ish, and 5 is kindergarten, but really kindergarten to me is a kind of preschool because it's not, if it's preschool age, and I don't think that a 5-year-old is ready for a school day. Yeah. So in a way, it could be considered preschool.
Preschool. Yeah. Yeah. I will say that up until age 6 at my house, school was entirely optional.
Yes.
Like you got to pick if you wanted to like do school that day or if you didn't want to do school. I would I would keep it fun, things like that. And then some people will say, oh, wait a second, I'm in like Missouri. We've got to do 900 hours, a year for kindergarten. And what I would say to that is everything you are doing, learning and living with your child is kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
You're
It's a
getting
lot more
dressed,
than 900 hours.
brushing teeth, reading stories. It's all of it, playing outside,
Yeah.
that's either nature study or PE, it all counts. And so yeah. And I think that so for when we designed the Little Explorers, we designed it as an early education program, and we do say it goes up to 6-year-olds. And so
Okay.
what you do is when you get a child who is 6, or you get a child who's ready for more, they're asking you, "Hey mom, can I learn to read? Hey mom, I want to write," different things like that. Then you add on something like an all about reading, or uh for us it was Math UC. Though, did you do primer or did you skip straight to alpha?
With my oldest, we just started straight with alpha. But
Yeah.
then with the subsequent kids coming up, they all wanted to do math. But I didn't want to spend my time teaching them math because it was just, they were too young. It would have been more teaching effort to get them through the lesson than so I did primer with them because it was just learning number, just because they wanted a math page and it was the right level for giving them a math page. When they were even like 3 or 4 asking for math pages, I actually printed out your number pages.
Oh yeah, those are so much fun. I'll link
Yeah.
those as well. Those are the Learn to Write number poems. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much fun. Yeah. And we never finished. We never finished. We would get halfway through like the Math UC primer, but we started. I think we probably started later. Like none of my kids ever asked for it, right? So we were at like 5 or 6 before we started, or something like that. And I would be like, "You want to do math today?" And they would say yes, and we just wouldn't get very far. And eventually, I would just throw everybody into alpha, and everybody was just much happier with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very much so. And I don't think Thomas started the All About Reading preschool until he was 5. So because at that point I had a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and so we just didn't start until later. And like I said, he read easier than everybody else. So
a lot of those skills, it really is just like potty training and learning to walk. The kids learn at different times.
Yeah,
And,
they really
look at a group of 5-year-olds and there is no difference in their bathroom skills. If they were potty trained at 1 or 2 or 3 or walking, you can't tell the difference in a group of 5-year-olds on who has been walking 1 year longer than all the others. It just doesn't make a difference by the time they really hit their stride in school when they got started. If they started, they'll learn at their own pace and get started when they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, this is not a time to be worrying about, learning disabilities or things like that. Now, if you have a known delay that pops up, that's different. But for the most part, if your 5-year-old's not reading, this is not the time to suspect problems. Just for that very fact, there's something else going on maybe, but for that, no.
Yeah. It doesn't even mean that you need to put in more time on phonics.
Oh, please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't. 5 minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep those lessons short, keep them wanting more. That's the best thing you can do at that age group. So, all right. Well, I will include all of the links down in the description for you. And so you'll have those. And we'll be back next week, right?
Yeah, we will be back next week on my channel. And I think we're going to talk, it's our pick 2 topic, I think. Where we have homeschooling and cleaning house and, was it laundry? Are those the 3? It's like,
That's not my 3. I don't do laundry.
Yeah. Well, that's pick 2, right? You have to offload something or lower some standards on something. You can't do everything. Homeschooling really does take time and energy. And and it makes a mess. So
yes.
We have to make adjustments. That's what we're going to talk about next week. And that will be
and we'll see you next week on Misty's channel.
Bye!